Hello everyone, this is Anshuman and with me I have my colleague Siddharth. Welcome to this knowledge sharing session hosted by Aranka. Aranka is a global technology advisory firm and we help organizations accelerate innovation.
In this session, we would be talking about data privacy and AI. Today, we have with us Pradeepta Mishra, co-founder Data Safeguard. In the past, he has also led teams for AI at large companies like Larsen and Toubro. Welcome, Pradeepta.
Thank you.
Would you like to talk a bit about your background?
Yeah, so I I'm from product development background. So prior to my current organization, Data Safeguard INC, so I was part of another startup uh, that was called Limbic, and so I started in 2012, and that startup got acquired by Alent Infotech in the year 2019, and after that I stayed there till 2022. So in my 10 years journey here, 2012 to 2022, so mostly I developed AI/ML teams from scratch, like hiring folks from the colleges, like interns, and training them, mentoring them, grooming them, and making them product development engineers and AI focused engineers. So I built a solid team of around 35, 36 people, and yeah, so mostly I spent my last 15, 16 years into AI and AI related products and algorithms mostly.
Okay. Thank you, Pradeepta, for giving us time today. So, in the era of connected devices and online payments, users generally share a lot of information online, right? So, how is the current system handling the data security, data privacy issues?
Currently, if you look at, I do agree that people are sharing a lot of information online today. I don't think it is completely secure. And why? The reason is that sometimes we leave our information on websites that are not secure. So mostly unsecure portals, like phishing portals, or maybe some other websites where it's not completely secure, and we share our information, we make payments, or we leave our personal details like phone numbers and email addresses,
Right.
etc. So that is completely not secure at this moment. And obviously this is something which the hackers take advantage of, and hackers, they create malicious websites and malicious URLs, and through which they capture a lot of personal information from people, and they do a lot of phishing attacks, and also they do steal the private information, and they create a Frankenstein identity. And what is Frankenstein identity? It's about collecting somebody's Aadhaar number, somebody's PAN card number, somebody's date of birth, and creating fake identities which looks like real identities.
Okay.
And using those fake identities, probably they will take loans from fintech companies or companies who are offering loans on the app. So mostly, I don't know, like to what extent they do background check of those profiles and all. I'm not so clear. Obviously, they would be having it, but these fake identities, they take loans, small amounts, and later on they pay it off. They establish trust, and
Right.
then they go for big amounts. So that's a typical trend which we can see that will emerge in next couple of years. But this is something like the information, when we are sharing it online and it is not secure at all, so that's a bigger risk.
Right, right. So, as we see that we tend to hear a lot of news about data leakages, data theft. The servers were hacked. The information of users were compromised. Right. So, how these things actually affect the end user? Because we generally tend to hear a lot of things in the news saying that the servers were hacked. Right. So, how does it actually ends up to the end user? Because we understand that
Right,
fintech companies, we are sharing data and that can be masked, right? But
right,
then how do we actually the end users?
right,
Yeah.
right. So what happens today is that when personal data, mostly the name, mobile number, email address, and physical addresses, home address of, residential address, all those information mostly it is stored by, let's take company A,
Right.
in some place, and that place is not secure, right? So the hackers typically, they get relevant information, and wherever there is a relevant information, they will hack only. So let's take, you have operational data, like who is going, who is coming, how much they are spending. they're not least interested about that data.
Right.
With that data, they can't monetize, they can't sell it up to anyone else. But think about something like where you have like a customer's data, customers' demographic profiles, entire personal information, everything is getting stored. That's a potential business for them. If they hack this database, they get control over, let's take 20,000 customers or 30,000 customers, real data they get access to. What they can do, they can sell it up in the dark web to someone else. Like any company who is looking for leads, they can target these kind of customers and they can do something about it, and they can monetize it, right? But the data that is purely non-personal, where there is no personal identity, hackers will not go there because that data is of no use to them. Now the question here is how normal user is impacted, how an
Right.
individual user is impacted. So if you look at in Indian scenario, I'm just talking about every day how many calls you are receiving regarding loans and credit card. Today, I'm just talking about
Maybe
today.
more than 10.
Today, I have already received 7 to 8 calls
Yeah.
till now. I'm politely saying that I'm not interested in taking loans, but still, I'm getting those calls from mobile numbers, anonymous mobile numbers. So one fine day, I was just talking to another person who called, and I just asked him, "Where did you get my data, and how did you get my mobile number?" The person was telling me that, okay, I don't know. We have an app. In the app, your name is only like popping up. I'm just clicking on your name and the call is going to you. So I don't know really your mobile number. But your real mobile number is already there in the backend. And where are you getting this data? We don't know. We are being told to call. So the question here is, I have not given my consent to call me back again regarding the loans or regarding your credit cards or anything.
Right.
But still, this is a highly inconvenient thing for us in India. I mean, in Indian scenario. Just think 5 years back what used to happen. People used to make calls from landline, right?
Right.
So you have a provision to do DND. So you can block these landline phones like do not disturb, so that nobody will be calling you again. That's what you can do. Today they are calling from mobile numbers, so you have no clue where this call is coming from. Is it coming from someone like who is really in need of something from me, and is it so important to pick up this call? I don't know. Like if you are in the middle of a meeting or you are driving or you are in some important discussions, somebody is calling you, you would think that's a genuine user, but when you just pick up the call, you find that the person is selling credit card or loans to you. This is highly inconvenient. Every day you are receiving so many calls. That is, the inconvenience is one part of it. What is more scary part of it is that they trade your data.
Right.
Now, today, entity one is saying that, are you interested in loan? I got your number from somewhere, from our source. Now, entity B is telling the same thing, entity C is telling the same thing. So, I will not name the banks, but almost all the private and I have not heard this from public sector banks so far, because these calls are not, I have not never received from public sector banks.
Okay.
But private sector banks, almost all the banks, these 7 calls, they are all from private sector banks. And the same bank is calling you 3 times a day. When you are saying that, okay, I am not interested, please do not call me, and update your records. Despite that, you are getting that calls also. So inconvenience is one of the way that the normal user is getting impacted. Second important thing is, my numbers are not secured. Now today, if somebody is making transactions on my number, or how they can use my number, right? So they can use my number to, for example, block some accounts like in IRCTC.
Right.
If somebody is taking my mobile number, registers an account there, and he is using that account, I don't know. And whenever I will log in again, so the portal tells me that, okay, it is being taken by someone else. So I will not have access to creating accounts. Like if my mobile number and email address is there, they can create anything out of it. So that's why the security of or private data security is a challenge. Inconvenience is also a challenge. These are two major things I would like to highlight, but there are other aspects of it also. The most important thing is data trade that
Okay.
is happening, and
Yeah.
you don't know how many people they have sold your data, right? So because you have no clue, Mr. A is selling to B, C, D, or to whosoever it is selling, we don't have any clue. The data is just proliferating on the entire dark web.
Right. 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 So, what do you think would be the strategy for an end user to protect his information that he's sharing online, because you cannot, like, you believe a company like Facebook to protect your data, right? But then if eventually it is getting supplied from their servers, right, then how can an individual cater to this problem?
Right. So as an individual, so to protecting the personal information and the data, this can be done in two different ways. So
Okay.
one, the person who is collecting the information or the organization who is collecting the information, they have to make sure that the data is being used or consumed internally in a very secure manner. That is first important thing. What an individual can do is probably do not provide your personal details on publicly available forms or any kind of so like for example, we check into a hotel, we probably write our
Right.
mobile number and email address in a register. That is not required. What is the purpose of doing that? When I'm booking something online, you have my details. If you want to make a call, so you go to the login to the system and make a call to me. Why you need my information on a register?
Right.
That's not required. So the question here is, as an individual, we have to educate other folks also. Provide your information where it is required, and do not unnecessarily share your personal details, proliferate your information on everything. So this is a physical world example. In a digital world also, when somebody is asking, like even a simple webinar, if you want to enroll for an webinar, they're asking for mobile number and email address. Email address fair, I understand that,
Right.
because you will be sending the webinar links and all, but personal mobile number, how it is important, I don't know. Should we provide it, and is it optional? So it can be optional also. So just before sharing your information, before clicking anything, any agreements, online forms, etc., make sure that why somebody is asking this information, is it necessary? Just re-evaluate yourself
Right.
and then decide whether to provide this information or not. And apart from that, you have to use other channels like two-factor authentication. For most of the apps it is there, you have to enable it. Second, do not share your password. Do not store your passwords in the browsers, and you start using, like, clean your browser passwords and reset your passwords every 2 months or 3 months. I know, like, there are like a lot of passwords that you have to remember.
Right.
So what you can do is you have to probably periodically evaluate the strength of the passwords and upgrade your passwords, and at the same time revisit your passwords once again, just to ensure that you are still in control of your account and nobody else has taken control of your
Right.
account.
Right.
So these periodically you have to review these things, like the regular portals or the like maybe websites where you regularly visit to do something.
Right.
So keep yourself upgraded with these things. And before clicking on any URL, also make sure that this is authentic URL. It's not coming from unauthorized sources or phishing URLs you are not clicking. So you have to be very, very sure about before clicking anything online digitally. And now today is the ad world. Like whatever you
Yeah.
read, you see, the ad is interrupting you.
Right.
Like, so for example, I'm reading a blog, suddenly a pop-up comes up showing an advertisement.
Right.
That's
Right.
an interruption.
Right.
Now what happens with the flow or with something, you
mistakenly,
forget, and
yeah.
by mistake you click on something, or you close something, and your intention is to close, but suddenly you click on something else. It will redirect, and accidentally if you do 2 3 clicks, probably they will take your information.
Right.
So
Right.
the idea is you have to be very cautious today, and check the advertisements, check the pop-ups, and ensure that before clicking, just ensure that what I'm clicking, why I'm clicking, is it coming from authentic sources or not. So as an individual, we can do this way, and just to take precautions so that our data is not misused by fraudsters or any kind of hackers.
Hackers.
From an organization point of view, the organizations, like there are various data privacy laws. We have GDPR, CCPA, and in California it is called CPRA, and in India it is called DPDP. And so there are various countries now, they are coming up with data privacy acts to protect the privacy of individuals, so that the data is not being compromised, the data is not being shared to unauthorized people or entities. So the organizations, as a data fiduciary, so their role is to ensure that the data is being communicated in a secure channel. The data is being accessed by authorized sources only, not any random actors they are having access to the data. Whenever the data is moving from higher environment to lower environments, it is getting masked or redacted. That is the critical part of it. Because many organizations, they don't do redaction and masking. and they leave the data as it is. As an example, in various organizations, in like people who are working as data scientists, they're directly pulling the data from database. They start building models. They start creating like personal flags like race, age, sex, etc. So
Right.
they use those personal demographic information to build models, because that will help us as a data scientist to create good models if you know the user behavior and the user personas. Now, as per GDPR, this is not allowed. When your data, personal data, is moving from higher environment to lower environment like dev environment or QA environment, you should be masking the data and redacting the data. If
All
your
right.
data is not getting masked and your junior developer is having access to personalized data of some individuals, then it's a violation. It's a compliance violation, GDPR violation, and there are all other violations. So you can see there's so many violations you can see, right?
Right.
And also at the same time, the organization has to define the purpose. When we are collecting individuals' data, make sure that it is securely stored somewhere, accessed by known actors with the proper authentication and authorization mechanism in place. And at the same time, the organization should be having a policy of around archival. So if you're, for the purpose you have collected the data, it is already fulfilled, then archive the data and purge the data. So you should not be storing it for another purpose. You should not be reusing this data for something else. And even if you have to do that, gather a fresh consent from the customers that the purpose for which we have collected the data,
Right.
it
Right.
is already completed. Now we are going to initiate another thing. Are you okay to share your data? If customer grants access and provides the consent, yes, you can go ahead and start new things.
All right. So, is there like just a follow up question on the thing? Do companies also have data privacy technologies by design implemented within their framework so that they can um, cater to these compliance things that are there?
I don't think all the organizations are fully compliant in terms of masking and redacting the personal information
All
today.
right.
That is a big space today, and that's where we play a role. And why? Because large organizations, if you look at, this is done by their internal teams, so they
Okay.
don't really use a product to do masking and redaction. And why masking and redaction again is required is that when your data is open, the personal data is open and anyone can have access to it, they can do harm, right? Now the question here is, to what extent it is masked or to what extent it is redacted when it is being internally used within the organization, or you are sharing this data to some other organizations also, because many organizations, they have partnerships with other organizations for
Right.
some specific purposes. They have to share the data with the other organizations as well. When you are sharing the data, you have to make sure that personal information, personal identity is being protected and hidden. It's not revealed outside. Now, to do this at a scale, you need products,
Right.
and this cannot be done manually. When an organization has 180 databases, or where the databases are sitting, maybe public cloud, private cloud, or some hybrid cloud, it's manually extremely cumbersome to collect and gather those information where this data is being stored. And it's really difficult to manually go ahead and do redaction and post redaction. What do you do? Where you store, how do you pass this information? It's extremely difficult. That is why you need AI ML driven products there to be at the check gate. Whenever the data is moving, then you have to ensure that, hey, personal data is not there, okay, pass. It's there, go ahead and redact it and go ahead and mask it. So to do it at a scale, you need AI intervention there, and that's where we play a role. And basically, AI based product, if you integrate, and mostly in SMB sector, small and medium businesses, they do it manually. It is extremely difficult, and sometimes also there is manual error that happens.
Right.
Large organizations, they do it internally, and small organizations, obviously they are looking for products, such kind of products who can help them in becoming compliant when it comes to sharing the data.
Right. Right. So yeah, as you just mentioned that AI has a big role, right? So can you like talk a bit more about how what role does AI play in these cybersecurity issues?
Exactly. So I will talk mostly both sides. I'll talk. So
Right.
I'll talk about data privacy first, and I'll talk about cybersecurity, how AI plays a role over there.
Right.
So now let's look at only data sharing. Like suppose some of your partners, they have asked for some data, and
Right.
which contains obviously the personal information of customers as well. Now you don't want anyone to see that personal data, so that you have to do masking or redaction. Let's take, you go ahead and you say I need redaction. Typically when we say data, it is mostly tabular structure. Data is present in the form of a Excel table or CSV, or it is an extract from the databases, where you can see the tabular structure of data, which is a structured tabular data, right? Now your database admin would be informed by your team that, hey, this column number 1 to 7 contains PII information, so go ahead and remove this information or redact this information. Now let's take, your database administrator runs a query to remove this information before sharing this data.
Right.
And somehow, let's take, he forgets to do this for another 2 databases or 2 tables. So there is a mistake, and it's a violation of the compliance violation also. So in such cases, we are heavily dependent on human beings. As a human being, you have to again interfere to identify those columns that contains PII information, and you have to remove. Now what if the database has 1,000 columns? It's not organized properly, so you may have one PII column at 180th place, one it has 2000 place, so,
Right.
or one it has a 250th place. You have no idea. So basically you have to look at probably each and every column to understand. As a human being, you have to get into the database, and it is really difficult to infer that which column need masking or redaction. So in such cases, when AI comes into picture, AI looks at the tokens present in each and every column. So you have to run an algorithm that takes the unique values of all the columns, create an embedded tokens list, which we call it as word embeddings. Like in NLP, we call it as word embeddings. So using those
Right.
word embeddings, you train your large scale, so kind of like, I will not call LLM, but large scale models like transformer based models. The model will take each and every string and consider it as a something, some new text or something, and the model will recognize, is it PII or no. So there is a classifier. That classifier will take each and every text and each span of the text, combine multiple spans to reconstruct another kind of tokens. Again, those tokens will be going through this process. So that is where the AI plays a role, because
Right.
this is a very time taking and very, I can say, powerful way of evaluating the entire database, and manually and automatically figuring out which column contains PII.
Right.
That is the structured tabular part.
Right. Right.
When it comes to unstructured part, someone may share the data in a Word document and PowerPoint or PDFs or HTML files.
Right.
It could be Python files as well, Python scripts as well. So you have really no idea that how this information is being shared. It can be over email also. So the idea here is unstructured data also. Extremely difficult for a human being to read 25 pages of PDF file to figure out where is the
Right. Right.
PII,
Right.
where
Right.
is the credit card, where is the Aadhaar card number, where is the PAN card number. It is extremely difficult.
Right. Right.
Now in such cases, you need AI, because here AI, when I say AI, it is mostly natural language processing, and the models that helps you in predicting those tokens. When I say tokens, it is basically the named entity recognition.
Right.
So you need a powerful AI model that does the NER very accurately at a hyperscale speed, and so that you can run it through bunch of PDFs and bunch of Word documents and quickly process it. So be it structured data or unstructured data, both cases, it is extremely difficult for a human being to do this kind of classification on a fly
Right.
and predict the PIIs.
Yeah.
And that's how we take the help of AI models there. It's not a single model. So in our company, we as a company, we filed a patent in US right now. We call it a cognizable computing engine, so CCE. So this is a AI powered platform. So
Okay.
our entire range of products is powered by a CCE.
CC. All right.
So this is the privacy point of view.
Yeah.
Now coming back to the data security, cyber security point of view, like how organizations can use AI, or how, what is the role of,
Role
and
of
how
AI.
AI
Yeah.
plays a role in cyber security. So in cyber security, when we look at detection of a phishing URLs, anomaly detection, and malicious website detection, predicting the DDoS attacks. These are typical use cases where AI plays a significant role.
Right.
If it's a phishing URL, so mostly we have in today's world, we can see people have done rule-based systems. If this URL length is this much, it is coming from this source, and this is coming at night or day, probably it is a phishing URL. So there are rule-based systems in cybersecurity, and I will call it like in. So there is a tool called CM tool. Mostly the cybersecurity professionals use this tool to predict whether this is a phishing URL or not. But sometimes this is rule-based. What if the pattern is not being captured properly in the rules?
Right.
So then there's a miss. Now that's where the AI plays a role. So you can train your AI models to predict the phishing URLs, and the moment you catch the URL, you can flag it. That's one. Anomaly behavior, which is any kind of unsupervised or autoencoders or deep learning based methods we can use to flag one anomalous behaviors in the network, anomalous behaviors within multiple calls or multiple traffic ports or packets that is getting exchanged between two servers. So you can flag this out automatically. Now that's where the AI models has to be in place.
Right.
So yeah, so from both the sides, data privacy or it is cybersecurity, both sides, we need AI models.
Right. So just discussing more about the domains where privacy is a concern, right? So how do you see healthcare being affected by privacy concerns? How healthcare sector is being affected by privacy and security concerns?
Right. So
Yeah.
see, as I said, data privacy is very, very important. And GDPR or any European laws, if you ask, if I'm a person and I know your blood group, that is a violation. So I'm not supposed to know your blood group, or neither you should be knowing my blood group.
Oh.
Right. That is a violation of privacy. So the laws are so stringent nowadays. Even we circulate messages that, hey, one of my relative is in
Yeah. Right.
hospital, I need O positive blood groups, etc. Now it's bit tricky situation. Will you call it a violation of data privacy or not? I'm not sure. So I'm not the expert in that area. But yeah, of course, the interpretation of the law and use cases, it is sometimes a bit tricky to understand. But again, data privacy plays a very important role. The patient's secrecy should be stored, so should be protected, or should be like saved in a secure manner. Why? What kind of disease the person is affected, like what treatments are going on, who is the
Right.
doctor, how the treatments are coming out, what are the symptoms, etc. So all those treatments, identity of a person, everything should be stored in a secure manner, and that should be only accessible to authorities like practitioners, medical practitioners, or chemists, or probably the diagnostic persons, or maybe caregivers. So only those people who are authorized, they are supposed to see this. Apart from this, anyone else should not be having access to it. That is one. Second thing is that now what happens if the healthcare, the PHI, we call it protected health information. So healthcare related personal information is called PHI, protected health information. So people should not be having access to PHI. Unauthorized access should not be there, because they can alter anything. So if a hacker is having access, they could change your blood group, they could change your treatment plan, they could change your diagnosis and add few random words to
Right.
it. They can create chaos. So these are like injection of these words to the descriptions, changing parameters, changing numbers, etc., modifying these kind of things. This is a very, very critical issue. So this PHI information should be stored in a highly secured manner, and mostly redaction and masking is very much needed for this kind of information. When the data is in transit, data is stored in your live production server, there is no issue at all, because it is mostly secured. The challenge comes when the data moves from one system to another system and data is in transit. The encryption methodology should be applied there. Data encryption should be there, data should be masked, and data should be redacted. Certain information you can redact it, certain information you can mask it and unmask it when you want to use it. So in this way you can protect the PHI information.
Right. Right. So, do you also want to discuss more on, like as you mentioned, GDPR and European privacy laws, right? How is government of India adapting to these laws, and how are they making sure that we are on the forefront of in terms of the laws?
Right. So, as part of rapid digitalization that happened last 10 years in India,
Right.
and especially during COVID times, the massive digitalization happened.
Yeah.
Like
Everything went
all the
online.
services,
Yeah.
yeah, everything went online. So, starting from products to services to even any kind of intermediary like communications, also everything went digital. So, and because of this digital information sharing and very frequently happening between people, and mostly like personal information are also getting shared over online, like digital channels like WhatsApp or messenger services or any other portals like your Facebook or any other channels you are
Right.
exchanging information, right? So lot of crimes, the financial crimes that happened over time, and if you just do a search on Google search on financial fraud cases reported by the banks to the Reserve Bank of India, you can have a good idea about like
How many?
how many cases that has happened. I mean, how many fraud cases that has happened over last 2 3 years if you just compare.
Right.
And the question here is how to protect it. Obviously, government of India was in the process of creating a new law that fortunately came last year, 2023 August 11. They have passed this Digital Protection Data Privacy Act, which is called
Right.
the DPDP Act in India. And this DPDP Act mandates, like there are various clauses to it, and various like rules are set forth by the government of India. And I think government of India has given a mandate of all the organizations to be compliant by, I mean, within 18 months from the date of pass of the regulation. But periodically they also declare certain modifications to this law, like what organizations should do, how they will become compliant, etc. And so this law, I mean, as far as I understand, and we have done extensive study on this
Okay.
digital DPDP Act, and mostly again it highlights privacy as an important aspect. And what do they say is that, like, if you are a data fiduciary and you are collecting your customers information, so you have to ensure that the data is being not accessed by unauthorized actors, and the
Okay.
data is actually secured, stored, and it is used in a very responsible way. And even if you are sharing, that is okay, but you have to ensure that it is secure. Now, what is the way to make it secure from organizational point of view? Government has made it very clear that you have to follow these things, and you have to make sure that your customers, clients, partners, whatever data you are collecting, it is secure.
Right.
It is not being compromised. It is not being shared. Unauthorized people are not having access to it. And if there is a data leak happens, you are responsible for it. That is what said. Now, from individual organizations point of view, so the question is, how do I make sure and how do I become
Right.
compliant? Now you have to ensure that you have to know first of all who is using your data, how they are using it, what activities they are doing. After using this data, what do they do with the data? Do they delete it? Do they purge it? Do they send it back to you? Now again, the question comes masking and redaction. Because as an organization, if you want someone to use your data not knowing the original data, you can mask it and share the data.
Right.
So that is where the organizations would need the tools like masking tools or redaction tools.
Right. Right. So, just moving a bit forward, with Web3 coming into picture, right? So a lot of thing is happening on the NFTs, cryptocurrencies, right? So how do you see security challenges in these areas?
I think NFT is quite secure. So as part of the Web3, and because there is a two-factor authentication system there, and they know exactly who is the actor, who is accessing the data, and they know the credentials of it. So it is very unlikely that this data may get leaked,
Okay.
or data may get breached in case of NFTs. So blockchain and NFTs are secure ways of accessing data, using data. We have DigiLocker, we have secure Digi Healthcare locker systems
Right.
also.
Right.
So these are quite secured. So I don't think there is a challenge, and because there is no incident that happened, I'm sure they must have taken good precautions about security point of view.
All right. So yeah. So also, other than these NFT and crypto, there are also things coming up in the deep fake area, right? And a lot of things, as we see elections around the corner, there are a lot of things happening on the deep fakes, right? So how does AI have a role in identifying what is a deep fake, what is a original thing, right? So AI versus AI, right? How is
Correct,
AI
correct. This is a
identifying this is
really,
AI?
really, it is a big challenge today, because I was also, I mean, in my friend circles, we used to have discussions, and I used to say that this election will be fought based on the deepfakes, and a lot of things will happen here in this space. So that's pretty interesting area, but again, it's a bit challenging today also. So let's take the AI. Let's take today the AI tools that we see, like for example, you have Midjourney, you have other AI models. So Midjourney is a tool where you can generate images, you can generate voice, you can generate you can speak like some
Right.
other persona. So generation of a speech and generation of an image, cropping of the image, and AI generated images are really, really difficult to track and define. So the question here is, those portals which are generating this kind of capabilities of fake images, I will not call fake images, these are like AI generated
Right.
images.
Right.
This is the really challenging thing. Now from uh, understanding or how to, what I can say, uh, how do we identify
Right.
these kind of things? So attribution is more important. So attribution, as in, like, if an image is being generated by AI, the image should be containing some signature.
Yeah. So that is what
Currently, we don't
that
have.
is where my question was,
Yeah,
that how technically can we differentiate?
we don't have it today.
Okay.
We don't have it today. So, and I don't think we have a law just to make sure that okay,
It
there's,
should be there.
it should be there. So an attribution should be there. A signature should be there. Like even if you are generating something, some images, in some corner or somewhere in the form of a pixel, some signature should be there, so that you can attribute it whenever you are investigating an image. You should be able to attribute it to, okay, this is generated by AI. So that attribution is missing today. And same thing for text generated by the large language models, for example ChatGPT or Gemini or something we are using. If the paragraph is written by the large language models, we don't have an attribution here. We cannot say, as a human being, if I'm just reading, I cannot say. One attribution, you could say that okay, the everything is coming in a bullet point, but that as a human being also you can write it, or you can remove the bullet points also, you can write it in paragraphs also, that's a possibility. But apart from this, there is no attribution that okay, this text is being generated by the Gen AI models. So any Gen AI model that generates or images, videos, audios, speech, or text also,
Text.
there has to be an attribution. If there is no attribution, it's really, really difficult for AI even to figure out whether this is human generated or machine generated.
So this is something like a vicious cycle that we have generated and we are
Yes,
not able to figure out.
yes. Because sometimes what happens, it goes into a cycle, like AI generates image, that AI generated image again being fed to the model to again retrain it. And in the process, it generates something which looks very authentic and very genuine, but that's not really genuine.
Yeah.
That's again a model generated by AI.
Right. Right. And also on the quantum computing aspect. So if with that coming into pictures, like how do you think the cybersecurity ecosystem would change? How would it affect?
So, so in today's cybersecurity, most of the cybersecurity solutions that we have mostly rule-based systems. So you want to secure endpoints, you have to set certain rules. You want to, let's take, do prevent your systems from DOS and DDoS attacks or phishing attacks, you have to set certain rules. And these are mostly diagnostic, like things that has already happened, you are just based on
Yeah.
that you are creating rules. But it is not finding out the patterns which is beyond the normal thing, right? So that is why the AI intervention is very important in this case. Now coming back to quantum computing, yes, quantum algorithms can definitely help, but today we do not have. I think yesterday NVIDIA launched this new
Yeah.
framework. It's called GROOT or something.
Yeah, something
So
on that
the
lines. Yeah.
generative AI, I don't exactly remember the name, but yesterday they released something that shows the power of quantum computing. But before that, we hardly have any software or a chip that performs quantum computing at scale. So quantum computing in theory, we know that and we understand how it works, etc. But practically, do I have to buy a system? Do I have to buy a CPU processor or maybe a GPU that can help us in doing quantum computing? Or do I have to buy a chip that can help us in quantum computing? Bit difficult because it was not there. So as a product owner, if I have to implement something, or as a AI engineer, I have to implement quantum computing to secure something. Of course, we need algorithms, we need systems, we need
Right.
platform, so that I can use it to do something. So it will take some time. So quantum computing, I don't think this is the right time. Maybe in new players will come. It will take another couple of years to implement quantum computing in cybersecurity. But today, AI in cybersecurity, it's not started even. So first, AI has to be implemented in cybersecurity to
Right. Right.
do behavior analysis, pattern recognitions, anomaly detections, phishing URL detections, your intrusion detection system creation. So today's IDS, most of the organizations, they have rule based.
Hmm.
So it has to be first of all the AI ML driven intrusion detection system you have to implement. Now these models itself, it has challenges because these models are not very small models. These are predominantly very large scale models, and you have to implement it. So you have to again do it at a scale. So you have to run it on a Kubernetes cluster. You have to Dockerize it. There are challenges to it also. So practical challenges are there. So as I mean, even if you have to implement a AIML model at the endpoint, there is a challenge also because the response time has to be really fast. If
Right.
your model is generating inferences, it takes 2 seconds, 3 seconds, so the event is gone. So you cannot meet it. So challenges are there today. So I think AI in cybersecurity, that is the first step, and quantum computing will come later.
Yeah. So yeah, thank you, Pradeepta. So it was a very insightful discussion. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Siddharth.
Hope you found the session insightful. Stay tuned for more such episodes with Aranka.